Hey fellas, how you doing? It's Johnny. Let me tell you about I would say, my life-changing moment. It happened to me about 2 years ago. It may be a bit longer, but just if memory serves me correct, 2 years ago. So two years ago, I had a terrifying, agonizing realization. And I literally did have a realization. I'd had a realization that was so difficult for me to deal with psychologically. It caused me to have a nervous breakdown. So I'll start with telling you what my realization was, and then I'll explain. It's not really that important about the nervous breakdown. The nervous breakdown was from the realization, and then I had a breakthrough. So I'm very thankful that I'm in good health mentally and physically, because some people have breakdowns and then they have to go to hospital, they have to get therapy, and I don't know, things can get really bad from. Luckily, my body just naturally mended back. I just went through it raw. I kind of just followed my intuition and just let my psychology repair itself back, and all the nervousness thankfully went away, and then I got really strong in myself. So my epiphany was, this was a difficult one to swallow, that my whole life I was wearing a mask. I was dishonest. I was hiding in every aspect, socially, letting people take advantage of me, letting people bully me. It's very difficult for me to explain this awakening, because we're talking about 17 years worth of life, living life, and then having it flash. And this is interesting because this is just my experience with an epiphany and a spiritual awakening or a psychological awakening. I believe, I can't speak for everyone, that it's something that was gradually happening. So I was gradually becoming aware that my life is dishonest. Not only was I dishonest, everyone around me was dishonest. And one of the realization I got was, this is for me personally, I can't speak fully for other people because I can only speak for myself. I wasn't dishonest because I was a bad person or I was a dishonest person, even though these were sort of voices that were coming up for me, like internal monologue. It was because I was afraid. It's because I was petrified. And I found that quite hard to believe, because at the time, before this awakening happened, I never would have identified myself as someone who would be not just frightened of people, frightened of life, frightened of myself, frightened of everything. Obviously that's why I was hiding. And then of course I realized that's why the people around me are wearing masks, because they're frightened too. And some of these people that I really looked up to and looked upon as, strong men or strong women. And it was a very disturbing time in my life. It was really disturbing. It got to a point where I didn't want to live anymore. I actually I didn't want to live anymore. And this is despite having money, having sex with lots of different women, feeling powerful, feeling in control, but I wasn't happy. And this really confused me, because my whole life I'd struggle. I come from a council estate. I come from the type of upbringing where you just got used to being broke and depressed all the time, and that was difficult. So this realization, it kept getting deeper. So obviously I had the realization that something wasn't right in my life, and that I was completely, I just wasn't living life correctly. Everything felt wrong, everything, despite on the outside everything looking right. From just, just from a stranger's point of view, or even people around me, they were like, And people around me are really jealous of me as well. They got really envious, and that became more confusing because I was thinking these are supposed to be my friends. And then it got to a stage where I started to ask myself questions, really uncomfortable questions like, do I trust my friends? I was like, no, I don't trust any of them. And then I was in a stage in my life where I didn't even trust my family. I didn't trust anyone. It was a really painful place to be at. I thought, who can I trust? And I didn't even trust myself. And then had to ask further questions. Where did this distrust come from? Where did these feelings come from? Because it just felt like this is not me. But I felt like I felt blackmailed. I felt blackmailed by voices in my head, and something was stopping me. I was frightened of death or something. I don't know what it was. And this came from because my dad was abusive when I grew up. I've spoken about it in other videos. And it came from other events from my dad's abuse. It came from getting bullied at school. It came from always being bullied around my area. And it's really weird, all these contradictory thoughts, because I feel really embarrassed saying this, but I was a really good street fighter. A lot of people were frightened of me. And then I come to the conclusion that actually all my friends are scared of me. Possibly some family members, I can't be sure of that. But the thing was, I let people bully me socially. So physically, people couldn't bully me physically because my dad had been doing that for over 15 years, and it got to a stage where he couldn't do that no more. And I don't want to sound bitter, I don't want to sound like a bully myself. My dad physically couldn't get the better of me no more. He knew it and I knew it. And my dad was also wearing a mask as well. My dad was playing games as well. It was so painful, it was so hurtful. It was happening in my family. And then of course, I've spoken about it before, and I hope Jeff won't mind me mentioning his name in this video. I'm sure he wouldn't, because Jeff's been just been a great friend and a great mentor. It was his work that helped me. I watched his work. I never heard of Jeff in my life. I never even knew about Jeff when he was in the martial arts, even though I was interested in martial arts. We must have just not meant to meet each other. But I'd seen Jeff's interview on London Real. This was 3 years ago. And this is when I was going through quite a difficult time in my life. It was when I was teaching men how to go out and pick up women. And before this, before I discovered Jeff's video, I was a dishonest liar and a cheat. I was teaching this men to go out and pick up women, and it was dishonest, and part of me knew it was, and I continued to do it because everyone around me was doing it. And then my relationship with my girlfriend wasn't honest. I didn't trust her. And I knew that she was cheating on me, and I was cheating on her. I thought, I can't live like this anymore. And I actually convinced myself, I rationalized that I'm an honest person. Every time I did dishonest things, I didn't want to look at it. And this is all the things that Jeff's spoken about. And when Jeff spoke about his abuse growing up, that he was abused, I felt so relieved. I cried my eyes out. I thought, the first time a man gives me permission to be vulnerable, because my whole life was spent growing up battering people for trying to bully me because I didn't trust people. And then when Jeff had told his story, I thought, obviously Jeff's story is different to mine, but it's exactly the same, it's similar. I got abused by someone really close to me, my dad. And that abuse from my dad went on to other people abusing me. And then it went on to me abusing myself and me abusing other people. It was a nightmare, absolute nightmare. And of course that caused me to have social anxiety. And I always thought that my social anxiety was it was the main problem, but it wasn't really the problem. Social anxiety was a consequence of my trauma. I was traumatized. I didn't trust anyone. So my whole psychology was behaving in a way to protect myself. So I struggled in all relationships, with my mum, with my dad, with my brother, with all my family. It was so hurtful. I couldn't tell anyone. I was too proud. I didn't want people to judge me, and I just didn't want to lose my temper. And I couldn't fully be myself around people because I didn't want to frighten people, because I was so angry, so hurt. So I had to put on an act, I had to hide. And everyone around me was doing it, and everyone was manipulating one. And there was times when I would just kind of pull out of it and just think, this ain't right. I remember being with a friend, and I'm not judging my friend, I'm just being completely honest, and if anything I'll be judging myself. I remember sitting there one day, and he couldn't look me in the eye. Like, he literally couldn't sit down and see how I'm talking to you guys now. You can see my eyes. He couldn't have this with me. I remember thinking, something's not right. And even though, as much as I could allow myself to, I considered him a really close friend, and I'm sure he would say the same for me, but our relationship was dishonest, and he was a dishonest person. He was cheating, he was stealing. I was doing the same. I was doing and everyone around me was doing it. And I just thought, this is not who I am. I can't live like this no more. And then it was weird, because I went out and I learned how to speak to women. I learned how to use these tricks. And even when I thought I wasn't using tricks, I was using tricks. I was being manipulative. And of course, everyone around me was doing the same back. So at the time, I felt hard done by it. It kind of feels like, well, I'm being honest, everyone's cheating me. But then you realize, no, actually, you're getting back what you are. And then that just completely just tripped me out. Completely made me feel I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. And then I'd done some research. Obviously, I listened to Jeff's work. I eventually got in touch with Jeff. I started working with Jeff. He started counselling me through my past, my trauma, gradually doing it. And we talked really openly, and it's like, I can actually be really honest with this guy. I can trust him. He's actually a good person. I had this same thing with my nan. And I hope I don't hurt any family members, my mum and my dad, but I couldn't be myself with my mum. I couldn't fully be honest with her. I didn't trust her. I didn't trust her because my dad abused me when I was growing up. And even when there were some days where I felt I could trust her a little bit, there's always something holding me back. Something wouldn't let me speak. I felt like something was physically grabbing me by the throat. That's how it felt psychologically. And this dynamic continued with everyone. Even when I looked back and I realised when I was teaching pickup back then, I still couldn't fully be myself, and I thought I was, but obviously I was asleep. I literally was asleep. And then when I was by myself, I used to think, that doesn't feel right. And then sometimes I try and say, oh, maybe I'm looking into things too much. Maybe this is just the way the world is. You are being honest. I'm being as honest as I can, but it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough. And I did believe in God. I believed in God since I was a kid. But then there was a part of me thinking, oh, you can't talk about that. People are going to think you lost the plot. And this is what abuse does. It just makes you doubt yourself. It makes you not trust anyone. It makes you think that you're less of a person. And then you do things to try and disprove the way you're feeling. I felt like a piece of shit. I felt worthless. That's how my dad made me feel. That's how everyone around me made me feel. And that's how I was making other people feel. I was projecting how I was feeling. And of course, within the midst of all this dishonesty, what's more hurtful is, of course I had some great times with my mum and dad, friends, but it still didn't make up for it. That abuse was killing me, man. It was paining me. All the sex in the world didn't get rid of it. All the rationalization, all of the addictions, all of the hiding, and I just kept getting around people that I couldn't trust. And I just thought to myself, am I no good? Am I not worth anything? I remember thinking one day, this cannot be right. I want to be able to introduce my girlfriend to my friends, be able to leave the room and not be thinking, are they going to try and shag my girlfriend? Or is my girlfriend going to try and shag my best friend? That's what went through my mind. And then I knew, of course, well, if that's how I'm thinking, it's very likely my friends will be thinking the same about me. And of course they were. Because eventually, I just got so sick of hiding, I started to confront people on it. And of course, people couldn't handle it, because now it's like, whoa, what's happened to Johnny? Before, we could bully him, we could trick him, we could manipulate him, because we know he's got low self-esteem. Unconsciously, people sense this. Even people that are asleep and dishonest, to some degree, they're aware of their behaviour. It's this really strange dynamic where people are not aware of what they're doing on one level, but another level, they're aware they're doing it. And then I said to myself, maybe I'm being harsh on people, because at the end of the day, we're all human, no one's perfect. We all lie to ourselves occasionally, we all get jealous, we all doubt things, we all question our relationships, but it just got to a stage where I couldn't take it no more. I couldn't rationalise my life anymore. And that's what I was doing. I was rationalizing my life based on being a famous pickup artist. It meant nothing. I didn't care about it anymore. I wanted truth, I wanted honesty. I wanted to be able to sit down with my dad, sit down with my mum, have eye contact and have intimacy and just connect with them instead of hiding. Same relationship with my mum and dad. They didn't really look me in the eye. And no wonder I developed that complex myself. And that's why I started to notice it when I was teaching people and I could help them with it. And I just thought to myself, if this is what life's about, if life is about cheating people to get what you want, I don't want to be part of it. I know it sounds extreme, but I wanted to be dead. I even said that to God. I said, take me off this earth if this is how I'm going to live, because I'm in hell. I'm in a mental hell, and my life is hell, literally hell. In the Bible, they talk about with our mind we can create a heaven or a hell, and I'd created a hell because I was abused by my dad when I was younger, and it made me not trust anyone. I was scared going out. I was scared all the time. I was afraid to go out in public. I just hid it. I just got good at hiding it, and that's what people around me were doing. I could see it. But I knew that people could be trusted, and I could trust myself, because if there was one person I trusted in the world, it was my nan. My nan passed away 3-4 years ago. It destroyed me. I hid it. I hid the pain. I was devastated. I was so angry. I loved my nan to bits. My nan was someone that I could fully be myself and I could be vulnerable. I got tired of it. And when, like I said, when I'd heard Jeff talk about that he dropped all of his violence and got rid of it and realised it was insecure, I just thought, this is how I always felt. How can I have relationships with people because they're frightened of me? Most of my relationships are based on people being physically afraid of me but bullying me socially. I got bullied by my family. It's mad to say it, a grown man. I know with a beard, I'm 30, gonna be 33. 2.5 years ago, I got bullied by my girlfriends. They bullied me. They bullied me and used sex to manipulate me. And used all kind of manipulative tactics, and I was aware of it. I didn't want to see it. That's the most hurtful thing. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to see that my friend's a liar. I didn't want to see my friend talking bad about his friends behind his back and then meeting him in person and telling him nice things. I thought that can't be friendship. You can't do that. There's no integrity. And interestingly enough, and I can't remember all these events, but in my life, when I'd been around honest people, it always brought the best out of me. And I started to put this is common sense, isn't it? When I was around dishonest people, I was an awful person. An awful person. Violent, dishonest, manipulative, judgmental. And I just thought, nah, this is not me. People are afraid. This is the sort of lengths people are willing to go to be loved. That's very hurtful, very hurtful. I'm surprised I can speak about it now so easily and not cry. I'm quite thankful. It's taken a lot of courage for me to make this video. I felt God urging me to do this video, and of course I did this video for me as well, because it makes me feel better to get this out. Because now I am honest. Now I'm not wearing a mask. I've been honest for the last 2 years. I know that sounds terrible, doesn't it? But that's a fucking miracle for a man who's living in fear and distrust and dishonesty. But I'm not going to be hard on myself. Because when I spoke to God, he said, it's not your fault. You came forward and you stood up to it. I stood up to all this dishonesty. It wasn't right. And this video as well, this is only if people want to inspire people who've been abused. It's not right to let someone abuse you and to let it damage you. And that's another thing that I got intuitively, and I got this from God. I prayed a lot since I was a kid, and he said to me, you got a lot of courage. Because of course, when you can't trust anyone, when you can't turn to no one, you can't trust your girlfriends, you can't trust your mum, you can't trust your dad, you can't trust your friends, you can't trust yourself, there's only one person left to turn to. There's only one person left. And even at times I didn't trust God. Please give me a sign, is to ask. Didn't even want to talk about God because people around me didn't want to hear it. People don't want to hear about God when they're being dishonest. I didn't trust anyone unconsciously. It started to get a little bit easier over time, but I never enjoyed it. Always wearing a mask. It's true what Jeff said, different personalities, faces, different faces all the time, acting different. I couldn't live like that. I'm a man of integrity. That's who I am at the heart of my my being, or whatever you call it. And I was always this person when I was wearing a mask. I was just too frightened to take my mask off. And it's interesting when you have an awakening. Any of you have had a spiritual awakening, you'll relate to this. When I woke up, and I woke up 2 years ago, and again, I'm sure Jeff wouldn't mind me saying this, because I told Jeff this already. I woke up through sitting down with him one day, but I was waking up gradually, and I sat down with Jeff. I can't remember what session it was. I can't remember if it was the second or third, and he said, let's come and do you want to have a coffee, Johnny, and let's square. And I said, sure, we'll sit down. And when we sat down, I couldn't look at him. So he sat down, but tell him I was like this. I was paralyzed with fear. And it was a great sign for me, because it wasn't personal with Jeff, it was myself. Because I sat with someone who'd been through the same thing, and he's completely, you just feel it, he's 100% honest. Same with my nan. I couldn't lie to my nan. And I said, I'm scared. And he said, it's okay, you're brave. You're going, you're going through it. And then after that session came where I had a nervous breakdown. I met my ex-girlfriend at the time, and just afraid. I just said, I'm breaking down. I said, please, I'm terrified. I think I'm gonna die. I was sweating. Oh man, psychologically. And after that, I had the worst anxiety I've ever had. I couldn't even speak to people. I thought, what a hypocrite I am. I used to teach men how to go out and pick up women and be confident. But then I realized I'd built up confidence with a dishonest personality. And I knew this stuff, I wasn't interested in it. I'm not bothered about what people say about this stuff works. Of course it works. But then I realized, yeah, it does work. You can go out and learn how to use strategic manipulation, NLP on people, but you're being dishonest. So if you want a dishonest life, you'll get that. And I thought, well, it's interesting, because I was practicing to get the results in something that I'd always wanted all my life, which was to be able to have sex with women and be good with women. But I never realized that at the cost of getting this, I would lose my soul. And really, the main problem was the trauma from my dad. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle the way he treated me, and how it left me. It's how it leaves you after. It left me fucked. It left me fucked. It left me damaged. It left me abused. It left me shy. It left me nervous. It left me angry. I just was changing all the time. It didn't feel good. It got to a stage where I thought, I don't care about money. I don't care about money. I don't care about women. I'm not having people blackmail me to have dishonest friendships. And then I started, after I obviously working with Jeff longer, I started to educate myself. I started to watch Eckhart Tolle. I started to get back into Alan Watts. I started to research Muji. I went to the Watkins bookshop, very famous spiritual bookshop. I started to study psychology, Freudian psychology. I started to study Carl Jung. I studied abuse. Obviously, I got loads of inspiration from Jeff's work, and I started to see the patterns emerging. It made sense. When you get abused, you self-abandon yourself, because your own dad. If you don't trust your own dad, you ain't gonna trust anyone until you heal yourself. And that's when I realized the only way to get this monster, this curse that my dad put on me, is to go and confront him and to tell him. And that's what I did. And that just liberated me. It took away the majority of my